Your volume needs to be turned down, please. We good?
I had already.
Can you hear me okay?
Okie doke.
Hello.
The first thing on our agenda is the call to order. We have Lynn, myself, Brady, and Chom is participating remotely by Zoom.
Yeah.
Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
A second?
I do have an addition to the agenda that I would like to put on there as number 3. And that is Jane Fuller, who, through your work as a county council person, you have some information for us that's pertinent to our deliberations. Are there any other requests for amendments to the agenda?
None here.
Okay. All in favor of amending as described, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Chum?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Hello?
Can't hear you.
Hello, hello. Can anyone hear me at all?
Can anyone hear her?
I turned off my audio so I can't hear.
Uh,
Do you have your speaker up?
I do. Chum?
Yeah.
There you
Okay,
are.
now I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay. Okay.
Did you say
Yeah,
aye on
I
that?
said aye. Yeah.
Okay,
You
great.
can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
So
great.
that agenda is approved unanimously. The second thing we have on our agenda is public comment. I have something I read at this juncture. The Lopez Park and Recreation District welcomes public comment in a fair and orderly manner consistent with Washington's Open Public Meeting Act. Speakers may comment orally or in writing, including remotely when accommodations are requested. To ensure everyone has an equal opportunity, speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and the overall comment period may be time limited. Comments should be respectful and non-disruptive. Public comment is intended to inform the board. Board members will not respond during the comment period, though the chair may provide brief factual information if appropriate. Lack of response does not indicate agreement or disagreement. Comments may be referred for future consideration, staff follow-up, or written response. Is there anyone that would like to provide public comment today?
Brady, are you gonna plan? Do it
Yeah,
later on?
no, I can manage. I'm set up to
You
do
can
it.
manage.
I can manage.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know why you don't trust me to manage anything.
That's exactly right. Okay. We haven't met. I am Brady.
We haven't been.
Have we met? When at a library meeting? Is that right?
Actually at a Lopez, right?
Sorry, I cannot hear at all. Would it be possible to get the mic closer to the speaker?
There's not really a mic besides my
Your computer? Oh, would it be possible if the computer is turned more toward the participant? So
Yes,
I can hear. Thank you so much.
sure.
And if the camera could be turned on too, I love to see who's speaking. Thank you.
No, you don't need to see us.
If you want, I can use my computer so you can keep yours up there. I'll just have you go onto mute. I'll turn on my microphone, I'll turn on my camera, and then I'll go over to you for public comment.
Perfect.
Seems
Or you
fair.
can just set it up somewhere where people can access
James
it.
loud.
Yeah. There is another
You're
table.
good.
We can pull out another table too.
Okay, good audio. Video. Great. Okay. And Chum, you can hear this audio okay? If we're just at a normal speaking voice.
Yeah, I can hear better now. Yeah, thank you.
Now we can
I gotta thank you. I'm glad we're testing this out. Okay. Because I was on mute. Okay, Chum, just confirm.
Now I can hear. Yeah, thank you. Thank
Okay.
you for that.
We need to check, online, if anyone wants to make public comment, they would raise their hand or see if they're watching.
Yeah.
No, this is the public comment call, last call for public comment. I thought so, Dan.
So did I. Come on, Ben, you can do it.
All right, one last chance for public comment, scanning the room. Okay. So I'll set the timer for 3 minutes, I'll give you a 30-minute warning if you get close. 30 second warning.
Wait. I'll be 10 seconds over.
You will be cut off, rudely cut off. 3 minutes, and you're ready to go?
Yeah.
Please begin.
Hi, my name's Leslie Richter. I'm a full-time Lopez resident. I'm submitting this statement to express my profound disappointment in the actions of the 4 commissioners who served on the original formation committee. My concerns center on 3 specific areas regarding governance, community engagement, and public discourse. First, the treatment of Commissioner Chom Gresham. First, Chom has no idea that I'm writing this, so this is coming from me as a witness. I want to remind this body that our initial slate of commissioners are elected officials. While a majority of this commission operated in an echo chamber, I witnessed Chom repeatedly attempt to bring a broader perspective to the levy discussions. She prepared alternative funding plans designed to secure school sports and out-of-school programs while remaining fiscally responsible. Instead of receiving a fair hearing, her proposals were met with dismissive behavior, eye rolls, etc. Her goal was to craft a levy that had the highest probability of passing to ensure our schools were funded. She represented a vital constituency, Islanders who deeply care about our youth, but question the necessity of a taxpayer-funded full-service Parks and Rec district. Her perspective was valid and backed by the electorate, having won her seat by a 3% margin. Second, the failure to engage the broader Lopez population. Following the November vote, Chom actively sought feedback from residents who voted against the levy. The community raised numerous valid, insightful points, but regrettably, this valuable community input was discounted and dismissed by the remaining 4 commissioners. Chom was pressured in public to follow the party line and agree with the other commissioners on the levy amount. With them or against them, that's not how democracy works. It is the voters whom the commissioners represent, not fellow commissioners. This showed an appalling misunderstanding of the role of a commissioner. Your role is to listen to your constituency, not tell them how to vote. Third, the polarization of the public discourse. The handling of this levy by its core proponents has deeply polarized our community, stifling respectful debate. Residents who asked difficult questions or who opposed the levy were unfairly labeled as child haters. I am personally aware of Islanders who received incredibly caustic emails from levy supporters simply for questioning the proposal. Bullying on social media led many to be afraid to make even constructive comments in opposition of the levy. Recommendation for the vacant seat. As you consider appointments to fill the current vacancy, I strongly urge you to look outside your immediate circle and bridge the gap with the broader electorate. We need new insights and collaborative voices. I highly recommend appointing Dan Post to the open seat. Having missed the election seat vacant, having missed election to the seat vacated by Commissioner Ledbetter by a single vote, Mr. Post clearly represents a significant portion of our community.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Megan. You ready?
Okay.
All right, we'll wait for Bobby.
Everybody?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Megan McLean. I am a parent, a LEAF board member, and a business person in this community. We just witnessed an election in which a clear majority of Lopesians, almost 55%, which would represent a landslide in a straightforward election process, expressed their will to support this levy. Those voters understand the need and the intention of this levy, which is to provide relief to the school's budgetary challenges and support to working families by providing school and summer activities. However, the failure to reach the 60% of the vote needed to collect the levy means that our school situation remains profoundly precarious. Not passing this levy has created uncertainty about the school's future and will inevitably cause further attrition in enrollments. The school faces a huge shortfall, which private fundraising cannot bridge for much longer, even as LEAF rises to the occasion to fund school sports this next year. This community now faces a critical juncture. Do we believe in funding public education adequately enough to keep our secondary open? Are we willing to use creative local solutions to provide relief to the school's budgetary crisis, given that the state is not going to provide solutions anytime soon? I remain deeply concerned about the Commission's capacity to act with unity, cohesion, and clarity about their goals, and I would ask that Commissioner Grayson in particular consider her role in moving this process forward. A huge compromise was offered here. The halfway point between 37 cents and 10 cents is 23.5 cents. There's a deal there. There was a deal to be made. Will all the commissioners now work collaboratively with their fellow commissioners? Will all commissioners provide accurate, consistent, and compelling information explaining the need for the levy to voters? Will you all advocate for this levy, or will individual commissioners continue to invite and encourage opposition to it instead of doing their job as an elected official to get this levy passed? I really hope that this community will continue to engage with the seriousness of the situation that our school faces and the solutions that are being proposed to take care of our kids. Thank you. Thank you, Megan.
Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, and Frank is a volunteer who stepped forward to do the action for this meeting. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Deborah Majora. Very quick, you now have a vacancy on the commission. I would encourage you to fill it with Dan Post, who was the next runner-up. I would like to see you invite him to join your team, and however that can be done. That's all I have. I said it would be quick.
Okay. You have 2 minutes and 37 seconds, so.
Nothing else.
Man of the hour.
Oh,
Thank you. Hang on a second, let me get you set up here. Okay, you ready?
Hi, Dan Post, Lopez Island. Diversity. I heard people talk about diversity before and that it's a wonderful thing and we should be diverse. Well, that should also include the rec board. We need diversity, not all like-minded people. Because with diversity, you have different ideas and can talk about stuff and have good communication. So I hear there's a opening on the board. I don't know if it's official yet or not, but I'd like to throw my hat in the ring and apply. I'm sure you'll have other people apply, but I would like to apply also when that opportunity arises. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Andrew.
There we go, we're back.
So commissioners, I want to start off by saying thank you for enabling me to speak with you today. And my name is Jane Fuller, and I am the San Juan County Council member for District 3. And I'm finishing my 4th year in my term of office. And I needed to share with you today an update a few updates actually, on the heels of the failure of the levy for the Park and Rec District for the second time in just a few weeks ago. It's sobering news I have to share. And Andrew Nichols has asked that I speak at the school board meeting on the 27th of May and tell them very much what I'm going to tell you as commissioners, because I think it's very, very important in terms of contemplating next steps for the school district. And in this case, for the Park and Rec District. So in the last 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, I had the opportunity to speak with 2 of our 3 legislative district 40 members from the state legislature. That would be Senator Lovelit and Representative Rammel. And I want to be clear, sorry I didn't mention this up front. I am speaking today as a council member, not as a resident, and former parent of a child who just graduated the school. I'm speaking as a council member, but not on behalf of the San Juan County Council. I think that's important to share. However, I will be sharing with you all where the county council landed in our meeting on Lopez on Tuesday, when it came to issues around legislative advocacy for the school districts in our county. I returned just now from a legislative priorities meeting in Walla Walla of the Washington State Association of Counties. And in that meeting, we discussed what the legislative priorities of all of the counties across the state will be for 2027. So a lot of sobering information coming in lately for counties in terms of dollars and what there is and is not available to us, coming from the state, coming from the federal level, and what we can and cannot even get passed locally, including the county levy lid lift, which for the record, I did not recommend be put on the ballot in April, because I knew this issue was going to be on the ballot and I knew how people felt locally about taxes. So my discussion with Senator Lovelit a week before last, and my discussion with Representative Rammel were essentially sobering in terms of letting us know what we can and can't expect in the next 2 years. The state legislature will be passing a biennial budget by the end of next legislative session. They are stepping into that budget with a $2 billion deficit already, despite multiple cuts that were made this last legislative session. Both Representative Rammel and Senator Lovelit talked about what the legislature did do this past session to work to ameliorate the devastating financial situation facing school districts across the state. And specifically, what was mentioned was their lift of the levy lid, but not a full and complete lift, as we know. Their reduction further of the special education cap to fund special ed students, and their continued effort to increase the cost for MSOC and material supplies, operations, and I'm sorry, Brady, I can't remember what the C is.
Operating costs.
Operating costs.
Okay.
They also eliminated the sales tax for school districts on services that they procure. And when I spoke with our school district superintendent about the financial gains that this school district made by virtue of those efforts, which are significant efforts, you know, when you think about the work they have to do to try and get other legislators to agree on both sides of the house, those gains are unfortunately ridiculously small. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars, if even that. So I have watched now, this is, as I said, I'm going into my 4th year. This is my 4th year of engaging with state legislators as an advocate for our school district, because that is what I have been since I stepped into this role. It is the 4th year in which I have seen them do precious little to alleviate some of the biggest problems that we have in our school district, but also in other school districts in our county and other school districts in the state. A lot of that comes from the McCleary legislation that was passed many years back, and we're all very well aware of that. They are grateful, our legislators, for being able to have successfully passed the millionaire's tax with the governor. However, even though they plan to use proceeds from the millionaire's tax largely to fund the education sector to fill the hole that they have generated over a number of years, the millionaire's tax faces 2 massive hurdles in the next 2 years. The first one will be in November, when a citizens' initiative will be on the ballot to oppose the millionaire's tax, to vote in favor or against. The second challenge will be the court challenge. It is being constitutionally challenged in a lawsuit. And Senator Lovelet was quite clear that if it makes it past both of those challenges, the proceeds that would come from a millionaire's tax, many of which would be funding the education sector shortfalls, of which there are significant shortfalls, would not come until 2029. So if we look into next legislative session, starting in 2027, with a $2 billion deficit that the state is facing, with direct information from both Senator Lovelet and Representative Rammel that there won't be much that they can do to fix the situation facing not only our school districts across the state. The word is basically hold tight until that millionaire's tax is able to generate the revenues that they're looking for it to generate. Not very heartening. And so I think, and the school district board will talk about this in their forthcoming meeting, I'm sure. And I imagine Superintendent Brady Smith will talk to the superintendents of the other school districts as to what small fixes can we keep fighting for with the legislature to get whatever scraps that we can. One fix would be, as Brady is very well aware, so is Jenny Poole, having sat on the school board before as well. One fix is regionalization, and requesting that San Juan County San Juan Island School District, Lopez School District, Orcas School District be able to collect the 18% that Shaw Island can. Shaw Island didn't even ask for it, but they got it, and nobody really understands why. So that is something that might be helpful in a small amount of dollars. Is it going to fill the gap that the levy lid creates? No. 350,000 or so gap? No. Another thing that I understand would be pursued again by Lopez Island School District and the other school districts in our county, as it has been in the past, is free ferry transportation for our school districts. For that, my friends, you need to appeal to the Transportation Commission. The Transportation Commission is responsible for fares and the monies that are generated from them. I'm happy to introduce you to the chair of the Transportation Commission, who is Debbie Young, who lives on Lopez Island. So if any of you would like to meet her, I'd be happy to introduce you to her.
Is she?
She's our Lopez Island,
Oh,
Lopez Island based chair of the Transportation Commission, which
Is it
is
state commission or?
state commission.
wow.
Yeah, so Debbie Young has been the chair since 2024. And I joined council in 2023 and have been fighting for our ferry issues since 2023. And I haven't once. Sorry?
You made significant gains.
I've been doing my best. And not once have I had a chance to sit down with Debbie Young and talk to her about our ferry problems. And that makes me very disappointed, I guess you could say. We keep seeing our fares increase, and that's hard, but the state needs those transportation dollars. But anyway, if we want to see free transportation on our ferries, Senator Lovelet was a supporter of that. So that's another thing we can pursue. We're talking small dollars, very, very small dollars. So what Representative Rammel told me that I feel heartened about is they want to continue to support in whatever way they can. They want to continue to talk. They want to continue to advance things, legislative fixes that can benefit this school district and others as well. So Senator Lovelet, the same thing would have been said. She didn't need to say it. So they're always there for us to talk to. And I guess I'm going to flip to some positive news. In this county council meeting that took place on Lopez Island on Tuesday, which was largely focused on the Auckland Park project, I made a special request at the beginning of the meeting to add a new business item. And that new business item was to talk about the failure of the Park and Rec levy and the implications of that for our school district, and to ask my seatmates if they would be prepared to add to our legislative agenda. It won't be mine because I'm stepping down at the end of this year, but the council's legislative agenda in 2027, advocacy for our school districts in this county. That has never been done before by the San Juan County Council, that they have made it a priority legislatively to advocate for school districts. Why? Because school districts are not the jurisdiction of the county council. Well, I would say, given the state of this school district and the others to come in our county, it's our responsibility to advocate, given that we represent the people of this county. And that includes the students of the county and their families. And Washington State Ferries is not the jurisdiction of the San Juan County Council either. But we've been doing a lot of successful advocacy on ferries in the last 3+ years. So I asked my seatmates, given that we're in the process right now developing our own legislative agenda for 2027 for the San Juan County Council next legislative session, can we please add our voices to those of the school districts when it comes to talking to state legislators about the need for school support? So they agreed. Yay, I'm glad, because I've been a lone voice in doing that for the last 3 years, advocating for not only our school district, all the school districts. And I've been actively a part of that, attending joint meetings of all the school districts last year, for example, in 2025, to support them in their advocacy efforts. There is a role for local council people to do advocacy. I understand that very well because that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years, including for our Lopez Island Hospital District most recently. So that is a win. That is a win for all of the school districts in this county, that you have a county council when it goes to Olympia, when it works with its own lobbyist, because very fortunately we decided to get it to hire a lobbyist to help us. And the dollars we've been able to capture by virtue of having a lobbyist in Olympia has been phenomenal. He has done a great deal because he's also the lobbyist for our 4 sister counties in the area. He has been able to advance our issues in important and meaningful ways. So because our school district can't afford a lobbyist, and last year Brady actually met Josh Weiss, our lobbyist can help our school districts navigate as best he's able. It's not his jurisdiction either. He doesn't generally work with school districts, but he can help with getting meetings and so on and so forth. So I'm delighted that the county council agreed to that. And we'll be having a discussion with our lobbyist next Tuesday, week 2, the 26th of May. We'll be having a discussion with the legislative lobbyist in council. So these are tough times. These are really, really tough times. We will not see state support of any significant order in the next 2 years. And keep your eyes on that millionaire's tax. And if you want to see a millionaire's tax change the regressive nature of our taxing system and have some taxes that those who earn more income can potentially provide to support some critical things, then maybe vote for it or not. Up to you. Happy to have a conversation with anybody about it anytime. But the hope of the legislature and the governor is that that tax will fill a significant gap in the funding of education across the state. So,
What they intended to be used for?
correct. One of many things, but it's one of many things. It's one of many things because there'll be a lot of revenue generated from that tax. And yesterday in the meeting in Walla Walla with our Washington State Association of Counties Legislative Director, Paul Jewell, I asked if he could please share with all of the county electeds essentially a memo, a brief on what came out of the legislative session regarding that tax and what the plans are for spending those funds if they ever materialize. So happy to share that information as well as soon as we get it. Our county is a member of that association along with the other 38 counties, and these are the kinds of things that we benefit from in that membership. So I'm sharing that information because I think there's a good segue back to why the Park and Rec District was pursued in the first place. And I know I stood on the sidelines of the soccer field with you, Jenny, prior to your coming, Brady, with John Helding, former board member of the school district, and other parents who are deeply concerned about the post-COVID financial crisis looming for our school, which we now are living in. The crisis we knew would come, we are now living in. And an Islands Weekly article written by Daryl Kirk was just published today, I think it was, that speaks to that. And both of you were interviewed for that to talk about why are we here. Anyone who's been following it, it's no mystery why our school district is here. And
Although I will say that mystery persists in some groups of.
it does for
I think
people.
it's good to articulate it, the why.
Well, I
at
think
every opportunity.
at every opportunity, absolutely, and read that Islands Weekly article that Daryl Kirk wrote because he captured a little bit there, but it's been captured. It's captured in every update that the superintendent provides and discussed in every school board meeting. And people who aren't aware, it's because they've chosen not to make themselves aware. So, and that's not what I'm here to discuss today. What I want to make really clear again for the commissioners who are present and the public that is present is that the origins of the Park and Rec District stem from the financial crisis facing the school and that sports would inevitably have to be cut from the budget, which is what we're looking at now. And so a number of us realized we need a sustainable funding stream, and we needed not look further than our neighboring island, San Juan Island, for an example of a Park and Rec district that sustainably funds the school sports of the Friday Harbor School. That was our model. That was the example. And when we first started to meet, those of us who joined into a group to start talking about this and then spent 2 years working on this, and indeed consulted the community quite deeply, repeatedly, had multiple town halls, we realized that the model that they had could plug the gap that we had with funding for school sports if the community was prepared to embrace the idea of creating a junior taxing district that could collect a levy that could at a minimum fund the school sports. But we then realized in the course of our stakeholder engagement that the Lopez Island Family Resource Center, which critically provided after-school programming, had a grant that would sunset. And in their application for that grant, they envisaged the creation of Park and Rec District to future fund after-school programming and the summer program for youth and children. And so we developed that partnership in late 2023. And that's how that partnership was born, because we knew that by 2027, that grant would sunset, and it still will. And with the current administration, I think it's going to be very challenging for that resource center with the funding they need. So we also further realized that to try to create a park and rec district that only funded school sports and only funded things for kids and youth might not be that, children and youth might not be that popular to everybody. So let's look at the model across the water and see what they offer for all ages and all people, and how they integrate all kinds of activities that are going on the island and support it through the existence of this entity. Let's look at that model, and then let's look further. And more research was done at other models across our state. And the person that helped us do that, I say us because I was a part of the formation district in terms of formation committee, in terms of supporting its work. I mean, Kit Ledbetter worked in this field his entire career. So he was very helpful in working with one of the other volunteers to begin to do some of that research. But fundamentally, the model to sustainably fund school sports is in our backyard, and it's the San Juan Island Park and Rec. Yeah. So I think we have a serious challenge before us, as everybody is very well aware. And I think that if we can't even agree that there should be a park and rec district, not only to fund school sports, but to sustainably fund education and aftercare programming or activities for children and youth on our island, which families critically need, and at a modest rate of taxation, as San Juan Island does. If we don't all agree as commissioners that that's what we want, then why do we have a park and rec district at all? And so I think, I'll be honest, I heard the public comments that were just made. I feel very sad. I feel very, very sad that this, because ultimately I pushed for the creation of the formation committee. I asked people to form it, and I feel deeply sad that it has led to such divisiveness. And I'm familiar with divisiveness because I've been in this role for as many years as I have now. And I'm familiar with divisiveness also because I've been attacked publicly for things here on Lopez Island. And I've apologized for some of those things. I've explained my way into other things that have been said that are not true. Ultimately, as elected officials, those are the hits we take. We also have to explain to our community, why are we sitting in these roles? And what do we really want? And what we have is a park and rec district. If it doesn't seem that we can get money to fund it, then I don't know that we should have it. And then we still have the school sports funding problem. And then we still have the non-sustainability of volunteer monies coming in from the community year after year to fund school sports for our school. That is not sustainable. So this now 4-person elected body, and I would think very carefully about who is appointed to fill the seat of the person who used to spend his career doing this work, who has now stepped down, who I would argue has unfortunately undermined the purpose of this district by virtue of stepping down, because he had a lot of knowledge in the area that this body needed to work. I think that if the spirit of having a park and rec district to fund at a fundamental level school sports is not solid, then the commission has to figure out if they want this at all. If you sit on a body like a hospital district, if you sit on a body like a council, if you sit on a body like the fire district, the school board, it's because you fundamentally believe in the mission of the entity that you are there to serve. So I just want to close by saying, as a San Juan County Council person for District 3, I will continue to do everything I can to advocate for the school district until I step down on December 31st, as I have since I stepped on. And I'm very happy that the county council will have the backs of school districts across the county going forward. So if you have questions for me, I'm happy to entertain them. I am happy to share with you any resources, contacts, information I have, as long as I remain in office. And I am very saddened by the divisiveness that this has created in our community, because fundamentally it's not about us. It's about our kids. So with that, and I'll share a slightly different version of that for the school board, but these are bleak times, and our school district's problems in terms of its finances are not going to get better anytime soon. So.
Thank you. Thanks for your advocacy.
Yeah. Are there any questions?
You didn't speak about Lebanon. As far as LD 40 Lopez, any sense from Lebanon of support in any of these realms? When I've spoken to her, she says rely on your community.
Well,
That's why I think the Parks and Rec kind of came.
well, all three of them have said rely on your community, dig deep in your community, create a local initiative and funding option, and that's what the Park and Rec was.
Lebanon from all of them.
Yeah, I have not unfortunately brokered a relationship with Representative Lukanoff despite my best efforts, and I have not once had a discussion with her about education. Now, that doesn't by any means suggest that you should not continue to hold her accountable. She is running for re-election this year. And I think it is our responsibility as those who vote for elected officials to talk to them and ask them what their priorities and share with them what our concerns and issues and interests are. So I would say all three of them, two representatives are running for re-election. We need to talk to all of them.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We go back to you and Mike.
I will move on in our agenda. To our discussion as a commission on next steps for the levy and community engagement. It has been disappointing. As an elected official, I can say I'm absolutely committed to supporting our local youth, and I'm sufficiently informed to understand that they really need it right now. And the community 55% saw that value and 45% did not. So here we are as a commission trying to say, what next? You know, we knew it came with risks going in April. The risk of not trying seemed the greater risk. But the problem remains. Fundraising is a great short-term solution, and I have a ton of gratitude for people that are willing to donate. But realistically, we need all three solutions right now, and that's levy funding, that's volunteers, and that's donations. And they all need to work together consistently. So we are still left with the same problem of how to gain levy approval so that we can support local youth programming. And that's where we are.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think Megan said, we compromise, we shot 40% off the original budget, and yet what I hear over and over again is, oh, you didn't listen to the community, you were tone deaf, you know, whatever. And it's really disheartening that that wasn't taken into account by a lot of people, that we pared down the budget, we took out any sort of adult recreation without it also being, you know, a possible revenue generator. I felt like the budget, we pared it down to where we could support family resource center and the school athletics. And I have not heard a great solution. Or I would love when people do public comment if they would offer some constructive ideas. Because I would be very open to some constructive ideas, not 10 cents. 10 cents, from my understanding, speaking to Kit, who spoke to the attorney, it looks like giving money only directly to the school is illegal, but people are afraid to say that. That the definition of a Parks and Rec Commission is, district is it's supposed to serve the community. And 10 cents would be a pass-through. I wish that we had gotten an attorney that was, or someone from the, state of the county to be able to say
10 cents doesn't even,
that is, well,
it
but
doesn't
would
even
help-
provide for,
No, but it would be
Sports.
helpful if someone would say a pass-through is absolutely illegal. Because I think there's still a lot of people, the chatter that I see on, well, not lately, but before April 28th, the chatter online was the commissioners didn't listen. It should have been 10 cents. It should just be for the school. And I, in my heart of hearts, don't believe from what I've read and heard that that would be legal. And we also have another issue that I have some concern about, and that is we don't have any money, so we don't have any insurance.
nor an attorney.
And an attorney, we have someone who's answering some questions pro bono.
Yeah.
So that is very concerning to me, given, as Jane talked about, she pronounced it Canadian, I would say divisiveness in the community. I don't want to get sued. And I'm a little bit afraid at this point that any way we go, someone's going to decide that we have mishandled something. I saw comments about the money we had been spending. We don't have any money. Any money that was spent, to my knowledge, was through the PAC. Kit reported all that to the appropriate authorities. So that's another thing that's confusing to me.
Yeah, no, as a commission, we do not currently have any funds. And we have met with our state and county auditors. I will say we were commended multiple times for being so on top of getting a brand new little district off the ground, and that we were
Small solace.
what's that?
Commended for that. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel great, but it's something, I guess.
I know, but we're meeting our legal expectations, and we're
Balanced our books.
yeah,
Zero
and zero.
Yes. Yeah. Cross.
The thing we're not yet able to balance is the tremendous hole in funding for our youth. And it's still my individual value that brings me back to the conversation with our community over and over. I think there's still a lot of not inaccurate understanding of what voters even voted on. I just keep hearing, people talk and say, oh, I talked to so-and-so and they thought it was at the same rate as last time, or they didn't bother to read the ballot question, or they are really not understanding the depth of what is an existential crisis for our school being able to continue, or to understand how that would impact our community, and that we're not just screaming into the wind, we're really asking for help for youth. Because we know they need it.
Or even how levy amount and percentages work.
Yes.
Kept trying to explain to people, there's a pile of money, and that pile of money will stay the same except for possibly 1% growth. So unless you do all kinds of improvements to your property as compared to your neighbors, your payment is not going to go up.
Yes. Well, every tax
And every time I
conversation.
tell that to somebody, they go, really?
Yeah.
I go, yeah, if you fix your house up really nice and then yes, you might pay a little more. But if you fix your house up really nice, you probably have an extra $200 sitting around somewhere.
Pie remains the same size. Your slice of the pie can change depending on your individual assessed values.
So yeah, it is frustrating.
So our conversation about next steps in community engagement is about what are we gonna do from here, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I have additional information I can offer, but I'm curious to hear from other commissioners. What do you think we should do?
Yeah, I do want to.
Chom is trying to speak.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you now, Chom.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think there are several things to process. One is the number, what levy amount would be appropriate to get the levy to pass. Another is process, and another is communication. And I feel like one thing that I personally feel like, okay, we did hear we did hear a lot from people who were very passionate about the rec um and the youth programs. What we really needed to focus on, I thought, was to understand the swing voters, the voters who previously voted no, but could potentially be moved to vote yes. And I think that that's the key piece that we really need to hone in on to understand, okay, do we have a good chance of getting the levy passed if we were to try again? Do we have enough of support of a swing voters? And if so, what would it take to move them from the no camp to yes camp? So I feel like before we make any decision on next steps, it would be really beneficial for us to understand this piece. So that's the process piece. And another part that I feel there was a disconnect between the commission and the community was the cultural piece. I feel there's some approach that I perceive as a little bit out of a little bit of disconnect from certain segments of the community on Lopez. Of course, our community is not just one thing. There's a diversity of opinions on our island, ranging from people who are very pro recreation, and people who are more independent, more self-sufficient, self-reliant. And in the process of communicating the need for this rec levy to pass, I felt like there has been a culture of trying to control the narrative, or trying to I don't know what you call it. Let me see. Like trying to do like a sales pitch, and maybe to some voters, particularly those maybe from the mainland, or from people who don't pay a lot of attention, might work. But I believe that on Lopez there's the segment of population that really values civic engagement, really value getting to the bottom of things, using that kind of approach to communicate about the levy seems disrespectful to these people. That's actually the feedback that I got, that people just want to know the full truth. They don't just want to be sold or convinced to believe or to act a certain way. And I
Yes,
feel
well, just as a reminder, I mean, as a commission,
Mhm.
our advocacy for or against ballot initiatives is limited to a degree. So recent anything that came out, like I think there's a mailer and people got involved, but that did not originate with us because it legally can't. So
Okay, yeah, that's a good distinction. Yes, so it did not come from the commission, but I understand that there are a bunch of citizens who are very who really care a lot about school sports, who were passionate about, wanting this levy to pass, who mobilized to have this pass. And in a way, they try to fill a void due to the commission not communicating that much at all. And I felt like, that's a question actually for the commissioners. I felt like we could have maybe perhaps communicated more. I understood that we do not have any protection, and therefore it could be a risk to do any communication. But I did talk to previous school board members. Actually, John Helding is here, and he did say that when he was on the school board, he did do a lot of proactive communication just to get the facts out there. Anyway, so that's another piece, about communication. And then back to my last point about the number in terms of like, what are we going to do for the, in terms of next step, is really unfortunate too that there are just a lot of competing needs out there in the community. We have the school EP&O levy coming up. That's a renewal, not a new tax. The fire and EMS department is asking for an increase in levy. The county, I'm not sure what it's going to do, but it may also try to ask the voters to approve another levy lift. I'm not sure, but it seems like there is a need for it. And the economy is not doing so well. And so I just feel like we also need to take that into account. I'm not sure how, if any of us has a clear idea on what it will look like by the time we try to put the levy on the ballot again. But I definitely feel like, there is so much that the public, the taxpayers could take in terms of tax burden while the economy is not doing so well. And I try to put some linear extrapolation. So if we reduce the levy last time from 38 to 23 cents, that's a reduction of 15 cents. And we gain in the percentage of support that we gain move from 49.6 maybe, I don't remember exactly, to 55. If you were to do a linear extrapolation, to reach 60%, exactly 60%, the levy would have to be 11 cents. Assuming
Well,
that
Joan, that's
sentiment
like
is
that's an interesting thought experiment, but that is not like a
yeah,
factual
no.
way to
No,
approach
no,
that
no. I'm
conversation.
not,
So
yeah.
it's very important when we're presenting information to not misrepresent information as well. So you are drawing a correlation that is perhaps interesting to think about, but doesn't have any basis in
No,
fact.
yeah, it's theoretical. Yes, I'm just saying that it's theoretical. I'm not saying that it has, that the actual, the way people vote is, can be extrapolated like that. But
Well,
it
we
was
did
just
just
like
have,
one
we did
way.
in our community just have a levy lid lift for the library that was largely an emotional vote. It's something people
Right.
love.
Okay.
They
Yep.
didn't
You
ask
brought
a
up
lot
a
of
really
questions
good
about
point.
the budget. It felt like something they loved, they cared about. There were
Mhm.
signs around of people you knew. Dan Post, one of them. And that was an emotional vote too. And so there's lots of things that affect the voting populace, including the, war in Iran and the rising gas prices and,
Yeah.
how people feel about the economy. So there's
So I have one
lots
more
of
point, Jenny, if
points.
I can. So then I will shut up. Just one more point. Yeah, you brought up a good point about the library. See, like there's a lot of, library is a known institution that people really know, really love and trust. And I feel because we are new, we need to earn that trust. We need to earn that love. And one way to do that, in my personal opinion, is to be as transparent, as factual, as communicative as possible, just so that it's very clear. People have a lot of access to our thinking, to our story, or rationale behind our decisions. And I think that's another piece that also we could perhaps improve on. That is transparency and being as accessible as possible. So that's it. That's my my analysis, I guess. Yeah.
So, Joe, Chom, I have a question for you. I understand what you're saying about transparency and accessible and whatnot. And given the way as a commission, we could not advocate, I
Mhm.
felt like the way to get that information out to people was the recordings of the meetings that we had that were put online. The minutes don't really tell much because the minutes are just about voting on things, but how would you suggest we are
A
more
resolution and budget were online too.
transparent, right?
Yeah. For example,
Yeah.
like the county provided Q&As, FAQs, frequently asked questions, like have a bunch of questions that the community might have and have a bunch of answers. Trying to anticipate
How'd
what
that work out
questions
for the
might come
county?
up.
No, I think that's a good idea. And I think we might be able to approach something like that. But again, the county undoubtedly ran their answers by their lawyer.
Yeah.
And we're stuck in a position where we don't have legal counsel. And so factual is, up to interpretation,
Mhm.
right? So our answers, I would want our answers vetted by a lawyer in any FAQ document. And so it feels we're back in that dilemma where
Chicken and
I think
egg.
that's a good idea. I really do. I would have loved to have been more vocal and communicative. I found it really stifling to have been on the formation committee and able to speak about, what I thought the vision, and then to be elected commissioner and not have that advocacy ability. So it is frustrating. I think FAQ is a great idea. I just have that concern of like, if one of our answers turns out to not be, say, legally correct, then we're liable. So I think it's a good idea, but I don't know how to do it.
Well, that was the exact conversation I had with Kit about the 10-cent thing.
Yeah.
Being a pastor. He said, well, we talked to the
MSRDC.
and they said, yeah, but they wouldn't quite go all the way across the line of, yeah, that's actually illegal. It just looks illegal to everyone. So you throw your hat over the fence and someone comes at you.
Right.
So that is
Just as
absolutely worse
backdrop
chicken and egg
again.
Situation.
Well,
The San Juan is the only park and rec district, the first and the only to fund school sports.
the 10-cent didn't include legal counsel. The
Right.
10-cent didn't include liability insurance for
Right.
commissioners.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's right off the bat, like what you're saying is we're hearing from the MSRDC that they felt, well, they would not say definitively because that's not what they do. They say those.
Well, and they
things-
actually can't give us legal advice until we are part
They
of their
say that
insurance
we
pool.
decided about.
So
No, they did.
anyone has $5,000 for our minimum insurance costs.
They offered some advice, but the advice was that would be decided in a court, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And if
Right.
it went to a court, who would pay for our court fees? Who would be our representative? Who would make sure that we're not as individual commissioners liable?
Right, well, and that's what Kit's pro bono attorney sort of said the same thing.
Yeah.
It seems like I would sort of recommend against it, but it
So, I
hasn't,
mean-
I guess that's the answer.
So we're
No
hamstrung-
precedent, it hasn't gone to a court case yet. It hasn't been tested.
Well, I'm sorry,
No,
I didn't mean to step on.
no, you're fine.
The 10-cent feels, the idea of 10 cents makes me incredibly uncomfortable for a variety of reasons, right? One being that it doesn't include coverage for us. It serves as a pass-through that we've heard is likely challengeable in court.
I'm looking at I'm pulling up the old budget
and I
and
vote
because
new.
I was doing the 10-cent version. Is actually it does include
So, Chum,
insurance.
can I finish my comment, please?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear.
Yeah, you wanted it included in there to show community discourse with it. But when we chose to include it, you and I both agreed that it was not a viable option. But we wanted the community to understand that we had looked at the option and understood it to not be viable. So that is what we did. One of the consequences of that choice to include it resulted in people thinking there was an either or situation that we were debating. So I will just
I
articulate that.
Yeah, I agree that it's very legally problematic because of the use of public gift of public funds. However, there may be ways around it which we don't know about. I was wondering if it might be possible for communities that might be, interested in this option. We need resources to be able to get some legal counsel. If the community could help us with coming up with some resources or refer us to some pro bono legal advice, maybe we could pursue this question. I know it's not going to be easy because it would require the commission putting in a lot of time because there's no budget for any kind of community programming that would benefit the broader part of the
Yeah, and
community.
and if we reduce the levy further, which I think we don't have any other option to do that, but it does reduce funding for youth programming. I mean, that just is the result of that's
Mm-hmm.
the way the budget works, is if you want it to be a smaller levy amount, you have to reduce
Yeah,
funding for youth activities. So, I mean,
yeah.
that's available to us as an option, is to just further reduce it at a certain point. That programming will struggle to continue without
Mm-hmm.
stable funding. And that's realistic representation of that. What the Family Resource Center was providing that program, we kind of included about half of that funding in our budget, thinking they could fundraise half and we could provide half with some stable levy funding. To further reduce it just means there's further money available. I mean, less money available.
It also sets whatever levy amount we decide, whatever rate we decide on, sets the amount for the duration of the levy plus or minus 1%. From the current year we're in now to the next school year, the insurance premium for Lopez Island School District is going up 45%. In the last 4 years, Orcus has done the analysis. We haven't yet got our analysis. 96% increase in insurance premiums over 4 years for the school district. If we're plugging in actual numbers now from insurers that we're talking to now, we're projecting what that will look like in 4 years. We need to double that cost. And if we set an amount now, 4 years from now, that amount pays for half of what we're paying for now.
Yeah.
By that formula.
And unfortunately, you need insurance to have volunteers too. So one reason we set our insurance budget line item to what we did is so that we could have volunteers, which if you're insuring volunteers, it's cheaper than paying somebody to do that work. But
Yeah, well, theoretically, but I mean, the insurance premiums are going up. The legislature gave, as Jane mentioned, gave schools an increase in the MSOCs, which is material supplies and operating costs. And they're excited and proud of that legislation, as they should be theoretically, but the amount we receive is less than the premium increase. The amount we receive from that legislation was swallowed up. It's a net loss to the district on the insurance premium alone, right? So when we're talking about when we're projecting out as a school district 3, 4, 5 years from now and watching those costs, the expenditures and revenue do this, we have to assume that that's going to be true of a taxing district like the Parks and Rec, that we're going to see costs and revenue continue to separate. And so when we keep trimming down to 10 cents or 14 cents or 18 cents, that's setting an amount that is what we're going to be collecting in 4 years. That's just not going to pay the bills. So that's a consideration as well. And a piece of information I think we need to get out to the public.
Well, in terms of next step, I understand that there's a lot of needs and things are getting expensive all the time, particularly now with the consequences of the war and tariffs and whatnot. I guess, do we want to try as a commission to reach out to potentially swing voters who may move to a yes camp if, blah, blah, blah. We need to find out what that is, what would move people from the previous no to a yes. And if so, how should we reach them, and what kind of steps do we need to take in order to be able to get this information?
I think that's a good idea. I also want to acknowledge that what Jenny said has been my experience too, and that there were a lot of votes that were uninformed voters. So it's a combination of making sure people understand what they're voting on, and also those that have been no votes to try and help create a levy proposal that gets them to yes, whatever that means. There's not a lot of variables. It's when and how much. I don't think there's a lot of other variables on the table. And if there's a point where the when doesn't make sense, if we don't pass a levy in November, then there's another year gap in funding going to the school, right? And that's, with our revenues and expenditures doing this, that's looking at like this year, our preliminary budget deficit for the school district is $525,000. That's public. So I'm saying that as a commissioner, right? $525,000 is the projected deficit for Lopez Island School District in the preliminary budget that was created by our business manager for the budget committee review and for the school board work session that took place this week. That is not an amount that we can expect our local community to donate to fill.
Not consistently.
And it's only doing this because the reason it's larger than last year is because our insurance premiums increased by more than what we received from state. So our funding issue obviously as a superintendent, but also as a someone who values school sports. It feels like a common sense solution. Now, I hear you about inflation. I hear you about, the war. Money doesn't go as far as it used to, the gallon of gas. It's all true. Like, I'm not discounting that at all. I feel it too. The last 6 months, my checking account is at zero at the end of the month. Like, I'm not sitting there, with a pile of money. So I understand and I feel like the sacrifices that we have to make. But I don't know that there are more variables than the when and how much. Are there more variables? Anyone?
Is there a possible, and I don't know what it is, of this, again, heard in the winds, that people have ideas beyond levies? I would love to hear those ideas beyond levies. Is there a way for the Parks and Rec district to do some sort of a hybrid between levy funding and
If we
godmother
well,
endowment or something?
yeah, Park and Recs are often paired with nonprofits that help do some fundraising. We are allowed to take donations that are tax deductible. If we're trying to solve the school deficit and funding for out of school care through the Park and Rec, then there's no real reason for people to give to the Park and Rec. They can just give to the Family Resource Center in the school. So that's kind of what I would say about the donations front. There are grants out there. A paid staff person working hard at grant applications could certainly bring a lot of value add.
People need money.
Well, it's that I'm currently doing a part-time job with running this Park and Rec. We all kind of are. So we know that it takes work and labor to make it happen. When we look at the budget, since our 23 cents got denied, I've been playing with the budget. It's like, yeah, if you reduce everything by 20% and you reduce youth programming by 30%, then you can whittle it down to 19 cents. It's like, it's hard. We're making sacrifices in that. And if that's our only option available, then of course we'll try and do that. but the youth of Lopez Island are bearing that cost directly. And that makes me sad.
And I think something like to your suggestion that maybe there's a hybrid, right, of levy funding. I do think that the way forward is levy funding, volunteers and partnerships and donations.
Yeah, we need all three.
I don't think that it's just receive tax funding and that's it, we're good to go, we just run with it. I think it's any organization on this island, I think has to consider multiple streams, right? Including volunteers, which are, if you ask most organizations on this island, and I speak to organizational directors all the time, volunteership is way down. And has not been, at least for the school, and I can't imagine for the Parks and Rec, a viable solution to some of the challenges that we're facing. So I think a lot of people suggest volunteers. My experience and the experience of many organizational leaders on this island is that volunteering is not the solution, right? It's not even as it's not as robust as it used to be for all kinds of economic and other reasons. The philanthropy is also like, if we're putting the Parks and Rec as another organization on the landscape of philanthropy on this island, I mean, what has happened this past year is that the school is now on the philanthropy landscape.
Right.
The school, the Education Foundation, went from raising $20,000 to $30,000 a year to $300,000 a year. So that is another organization on the philanthropy landscape that's competing for donor dollars with all the other, important and essential not-for-profits on this island. So I'm hesitant to suggest that a Parks and Rec or even that a public school should rely on donations to meet their general operating budget. I don't see an alternative for the school, but I'd be very concerned about adding another organization that is reliant on donor funding into the landscape on this island.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've heard people say they have ideas. I would love for them to come forward and tell us what those ideas are, because like you said, it seems like anything we think of, there's reasons not to, and that's why, to me, the levy. This is a little off topic, but it was interesting. There was this conversation between a Norwegian and American, and the American was talking to the Norwegian about, how much taxes you guys pay, and the Norwegian goes, yeah, and then I'm done. I pay my taxes, and then my health care is covered, and my education is covered, and my child care is covered.
Right.
And as it turns out, they pay less for basic services by paying that tax. And I've thought that it was interesting in the last year, we had all these different levies. And it's like, I wish I knew at the beginning of the year, these are all the levies you're going to be asked for. If you can only vote, if you can only approve for two because of your financial situation, which two?
Yeah, we are really seeing a perfect storm of levy lifts, which you referenced the 1%.
We want everybody in the island to write down on a piece of paper, what is the maximum that they would
Well,
approve?
we're not rolling dice here. I mean,
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we're talking about getting information from the community. Where's the delta between what would pass and what is the minimum that we could pass and still be able to do the things that need to be done and take into consideration what Brady's talking about.
Yeah.
The inflation that was on.
yeah, I think,
I sort of felt like we were there, but apparently we were a little short.
yeah, we can definitely do some outreach on Lopez Rocks and our website, asking for input. It's important to understand that with any feedback we get, that we wouldn't want to misrepresent that information in factual ways if it's not statistically representative. And I just feel like that's super important. And giving people a way to provide feedback is also part of the ongoing conversation with the community.
Right.
So what about like listening session as opposed to town halls where we're responding with what we think is factual information, but that could be fact checked or legal counsel might say otherwise? Because I know I have huge issues with surveys that have tiny little n numbers. Like when you survey 30 people and try and legitimize that,
Right.
and it's really hard to get survey
Right.
responses,
Right.
period, no matter what. It's
That's
tough.
why I just said
You're
every
trying-
single person had to write.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a way to require
Do that.
feedback or whatever, I mean, that's what voting is technically, and
Yeah.
39% voter turnout is decent.
What percentage?
39 countywide.
Yeah,
That's decent.
That's scary that 39% is decent.
It's
right?
decent, right? It's, you
Good
know,
voting.
but and that's why, you know, that's authentic feedback
Yeah.
It is.
is the votes. But if we can somehow collect that authentic feedback prior to the vote, obviously prior to the decision, that's the goal. It's just that surveys, I mean, there's lots of research about how surveys, you know, confirm biases, they persuade survey takers, they do, you know, when you extrapolate with n numbers that are too small, you get inaccurate extrapolations and your modeling is off. And, you know, if organizations make decisions based on surveys that have very small n numbers, they're making a huge grave mistake.
Yeah, and
So
I would want to avoid that.
we need to do something else.
We could
Before we
do
make a decision about-
2 commissioner coffee talks, and
So we're not a quorum.
so we're not a quorum, and just invite the general populace of, if you'd like to come talk about it, we're here.
Or we can also reach out directly to to certain thought leaders. I know that before the commission was formed, the formation committee did a lot of listening sessions, a focus group and community thought leaders. Perhaps that could be done again. Maybe not in so many meetings, but at least try to reach out, other than, making it, asking for people to come forward. And also, I think, there are ways to try to design the survey so that is exactly how we want it. And, there are a lot of, depending on how it's framed, it can lead to biased answers or whatever, but if we really try to pay attention and clearly, seek out people who are truly swing voters, we could potentially get useful information that could inform our decision. Also, I want to draw your attention to the fact that we have some comments in the chat. I don't know if we can entertain any comments, but John Helding was asking if he could comment, and Catherine asking about what about group listening sessions. Yeah, just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, there are different protocols in a study session like this than there are in a standard, formal Robert's Rules governed monthly meeting. So
Yeah.
I think we can decide if we want to open it up to conversation or not.
Mhm.
I would love to hear what John has to say.
Yeah, I would be open to hearing what anyone that.
Okay, I'm open to, that's a
Okay.
majority.
Should we designate like kind of a time period, because it is coming up on 5:30?
And I have to leave at 5:30.
Okay, so
Yeah, not very much time at all.
John, we'll just give you a few minutes here to give your
Yeah.
input on it.
Well, I thank you. I really appreciate that. I think I was here through the whole public comment, but I was in a car and somehow I didn't realize there was a chance to comment then. But so thank you, commissioners, for this. A couple of things. Number one, while I find Sean's linear progression of projecting the vote going forward interesting mathematically, I think it's more likely it's not a linear function. So I would focus on the fact that first time around you got 50%. Second time around you got 55%. If this was a normal, typical levy, you would have passed. So I actually think there's a lot of support in the community for what you're trying to do and what we need to do. That's number one. Number two, I think people need to, and you need to all understand, this is about saving the school. We're saving the school by having youth programs. And one reason you do that is you want to support the youth. The other reason you do that, obviously, is you have to have a high enough quality program that you keep people in the school, because you lose more money when we keep losing students in enrollment. That's going to be the killer ultimately. But the final thing, and I guess I'll just throw this in to stay within just a couple of minutes. I think the option you're not thinking about, and I actually think it's the reason, or you didn't get 60% and we stopped at 55%, is that somehow as a commission, I strongly believe you guys have to come out with unanimous and clear position. I think when the commissioners are not able to come together on, we all passionately agree and compassionately say yes to this proposal that we're putting in front of the voters, it's going to be very hard to get 60% no matter what number you come out to. So I think the work, quite honestly, is within the commission itself at this time to come to that unified position, which means coming to a unified and shared sense of what the actual facts are. And I think short of being able to do that, I think it'll be very risky to get to 60%. The final thing I will say is somehow you've got to figure out how to define what the minimum amount you can go out with is. The 10% was really confusing. It was either factually inaccurate, in terms of what it would support, in terms of whether it was legal or not. As a commission, you've got to get, I believe, clarity on what is that minimum amount and what does it fund, and then frame your decision on what you're going out and asking for. But bottom line, I think the key work you have to do is figure how you get to a unity position and consensus position on what you're going to put in front of voters. Because anything short of that, I think you give people a reason. If the 5 of you or 4 of you can't agree on something, then we're not going to agree on something as a community. Can't see your faces, so it's always challenging to share just into a blank screen like I'm doing right now from the ferry. But I hope that is some value for your consideration.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wait 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna just quickly go to Kit has, or I'm gonna move us on here, and then we're gonna have to schedule, I think, another study session, just to be clear.
June 4th.
Yep. So we have a timeline of around the 4th of July. We need to pass a resolution to place it on the November ballot, if that is what we choose to do. So let's be mindful of that timeline.
And placing it on the ballot means identifying an amount.
Identifying.
Those challenges of like, it's very early, you have to identify an amount. And then if you're listening to the community and the community is saying that's too much, there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Can I propose that we form a committee to come up with an outreach plan, including maybe the design of a survey, so that we can move forward without, having to wait for another meeting to talk about this?
Yeah, well, Lynn and I are already on that committee as the communications committee, and you have provided your input on some questions
design,
that you
yeah.
think would be useful. So I think we could commit to within the next week at least getting something on Lopez Rocks and our website that allows for some direct community input on it.
Great, thank you.
Why do we have, I mean, this is maybe pointless to ask, but why do you have to come up with this 4 months in advance?
It's the deadline for passing the resolution.
The April one was 2 months.
I think it may be even be into, I don't remember the exact timeline, but
Early August that the final resolution has to be filed.
Yeah. If we could identify that at our July regularly scheduled meeting, that would be a way to meet that deadline handily. But if we need to schedule a special meeting,
misunderstood.
Later in July, then we could. Kit has stepped down. He gave us a resignation letter that indicated in his many years of professional experience, a lower levy rate is not a feasible way to govern a park and rec district. So within 90 days, we do need to fill that vacancy. And there's a clearly outlined process legally to do that, including posting notice of vacancy, accepting applications, completing interviews if we so choose. We could even have an executive session to discuss the results of that interview if we think that's useful, and then appointing a new commissioner.
Posting an announcement costs money.
We can post it to our website.
That's sufficient.
Yeah, it doesn't come with like posting requirements like
Like newspaper or some other broader
correct.
communication. Okay,
So if we post it to Lopez Rocks and
and the website, that's sufficient.
on our website, and I already have that drafted. So Lynn, if you and I kind of want to review it together, and then we'll get that out publicly. So I think it was by August that we have to do it, but I would like to do it sooner than that, just to have a voice be part of the conversation. We'll probably give a window for applicants. We know somebody who will be applying. So we'll post that to our website and Lopez Rocks within the week.
And also, we should also have a criteria for choosing too. And I feel, given the comments that we heard, Dan got almost the same votes as Kit, and I feel we want to bridge the gap in our understanding of the voters. Seems like Dan could be a great candidate. Anyway, I really want to advocate for considering Dan as a prime candidate for this position.
Thanks, Chom. I don't think we're talking about it now.
Yeah.
But I mean, because we haven't even posted for an applicant yet, so I think it's maybe inappropriate for us as commissioners to talk about potential candidates before we post.
I think we should open it up.
Just to be careful about that.
Yeah.
But yes, the criteria.
So we're gonna post it within a week. And we don't really want to take the full 90 days. So how much time should we give people to apply?
Maybe a 2-week time period or something.
14 days?
Yeah.
That seems reasonable.
We also probably need permission to make the resignation public. I mean, we're acknowledging it here and now. So I guess that's probably sufficient because the letter came only to commissioners.
Yeah. We should also tell county elections, reach out to Cam.
Kit would have some work.
And notify her.
Yeah. Okay.
He should probably reach out to her.
Yeah. Okay. We made some progress today.
Yep. I think we're gonna need another study session. Maybe via a doodle poll. We're getting into some busy times.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna be on the airplane. when
Thank you for
I-
coming. Those of you who spoke, thank you for speaking. See you next time. I move to adjourn.
Yes. You want a second?
I second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
I say aye too. So we are adjourned at 5:34 p.m.
Thank you.